Welcome back. Here's lab 2, the motion of a falling object by myself, Thomas Dean. So a little introduction. The purpose of this lab is to experiment and understand the forces of a falling object here. If you can see to the right, here's a couple models. So what we're doing is we're comparing an experimental model of dropping, in my case, a water bottle to that of dropping a simulated drop of one with just gravity on and one with gravity and drag force included. Basically, we're comparing those three and we're determining basically what terminal velocity is. We learn what terminal velocity is by looking at the gravity and drag one and the one of the actually experimentally done one. So we're comparing those three, and we're going to see basically how drag force results in terminal velocity and how the experimental drop compares to these two simulated ones. So a few important ideas just before we get started here. Newton's second law, which is F equals ma. So to the right, you see this little model here. Basically what that is showing net force on an object. So here, the teal arrow downwards is a little bit longer than this white arrow upwards. And what that means is you subtract the two to find the net force on the object, which is going to be about this, which is the difference in length between the two. And then you set that net force equals ma, and that's how you're going to solve for this acceleration right here, which is one that we keep in mind when we're doing this experiment. And then another one that we also keep in mind is just the gravitational force formula here, G times M1 times M2 divided by R squared. And then the last one, which is really important for this experiment, is the weight formula. So it's M times G times J hat. So mass times gravity, which is going to be just acceleration on Earth, and then times J hat, which is or the force on Earth, and then times J hat, which is just the unit vector. So here's the actual experiment. So here's myself right here. So what I did was I held a water bottle right here, and then I dropped it, recording a video of it, and then put that video into this tracker program, and that tracked the water bottle frame by frame as it dropped all the way down here. So as you can see, this is the water bottle in kind of the middle of its flight. And a few initial conditions, it was held at the position 000, and then it goes down tracking, as you can see right here. Here's it in about in the middle here. So at 0.45 seconds, it went down negative 1.175 meters. So I put all these into a spreadsheet, and then that's what I compare to the simulations in a second. You can see a little bit of sneak peek at the graph right here. So along with that, here's a couple more initial conditions. The objects drop with no force downwards, only released, and no sideways forces as well. So here's the coding for the first simulation, the one with gravity only. So just change the mass to be the correct mass of that water bottle that I dropped. I changed the initial position of velocity vectors to just be zeros. Make sure the gravity is 9.8 just because that's what it always is on Earth. And then J hat I set to 0, 1, 0. The B equals 0 in this case because we are not including drag force in this first simulation. So that's very important. And then I changed the time to be, well, in this case, I changed the while loop for the time to end at the same time as the experimentally done one so that the graphs line up. And then these two are very important right here. So net force calculation, I did basically mg times j hat, like I said earlier, but m being this variable right here called ball m. And then similar, I did the velocity update formula, which is simply just the velocity plus f net over ball m, which is acceleration times delta t. And then here's that second program. So it's the same thing as the last one. The only thing I changed is the B is now equal to the proportionality constant. And I added the force of drag in, which is that negative B times the velocity squared times the J hat again. And you just add that into the net force, and that's what gives you the simulation with the drag. So here's what those two resulted in. So the one on the left is gravity only. You can see it's continually accelerating here as the slope continues to get steeper and steeper. But the right one, which is gravity and drag, flattens out and keeps a constant velocity by the end. That is what terminal velocity is. So you can see the three stacked against each other here. So like I was just saying, the gravity only one is going to continue to accelerate as it's getting down further and further, while both the experimental and gravity and drag one include drag. So experimental is a little bit less just because that's how experiments work. It's not going to be completely perfect, but the gravity and drag one is almost completely leveled out by the end into a constant velocity of terminal velocity. So possible sources of error could be, since it only really a short distance of drop, it couldn't really accurately reflect like the long period of time. What if it was thrown down initially? The terminal velocity is going to be the same, since it's basically just going to always occur when the force down equals force up. That's going to take the same amount of time no matter what. And then what does this mean? So basically this means that the experimental test and simulation with gravity and drag are the ones that got terminal velocity, which means the net force equals 0, and that's why there's a constant velocity. And that's pretty much it.